mean, you told me that you're like, we're kind of almost growing too fast. Like we have so much demand for our product right now. How does that feel?
It's two-toned, right? One, it's like fantastic. I know that all I have to do is show up and get the job done, and my company is going to continue to grow and be successful. But at the same time, I got to convert. I got to do a great job for everybody that's expecting me to get this job done, right? And I know I'm going to do it, but as you're doing it, right, there's always challenges and bumps in the road. Nothing ever develops as fast as you want it to develop, right? And so, so I would say it's fantastic. At the same time, you can feel that pit in your stomach that hey, it's your time to do the job right, and let's get it done.
And we're back for another episode of the Startup Hustle. Very excited to be joined today with Brad Parker, who is the founder and CEO of FormPiper. Like most other entrepreneurs, he was doing something before, solving his own business problem, and kind of pivoted into FormPiper. He's got background in retail, and FormPiper helps solve problems in retail. What's best person to solve problems in retail is somebody who was in retail, right? That's the way most entrepreneurs start. Sort of the best founder journey. So we're going to talk about his journey today and talk about the steps for success. He has a whole website and all this great material. Talk about the steps that most entrepreneurs need to go through to be successful. Should be a great conversation today. Before we get started, I do want to remind you that today's episode is brought to you by my company, which is Full Scale. We do software development for like 60, 70 other companies. We have 300 developers in the Philippines, need to hire software development talent. We can help you out for as little as like $25 an hour for super amazing software development talent. Check us out at fullscale.io. Brad, welcome to the show, man.
Matt, I appreciate you having me. Any opportunity to talk about business, I love to participate.
Absolutely. So tell us a little bit about your background. You did a few different things in retail. Now you're a tech entrepreneur. You have a software company now called FormPiper. Give us a little bit of background about your retail background that kind of led you to start FormPiper.
Yeah, so 20 years experience in the pet retail space. Me and my family opened up a store back in 2001. And, like all great entrepreneurs, we're usually very optimistic. So going into that, I felt like we were going to grow and scale and we were just going to, crush the world. And, I immediately learned what it actually meant to be a true entrepreneur and have to get that 7 day a week grind going. And so it really took me and my family about 10 years to really learn the business and understand kind of what we needed to do. I took on some mentors and really just did everything that they told me to do. And during that time, I was able to really kind of sit down and come up with my own plan and say, okay, this is my standard operating procedure. This is how I'm going to flow. This is how I'm going to work. And I called that my steps for success. And what we were able to do was become our number one franchise in the system for multiple years in a row. And it became a unique journey. I got to spend a lot of time with the franchisees in the ecosystem. I did these weekend parties at my store where people would come in. I would teach them my steps. I'd have it all documented for them. We'd go around my business and I'd say, see here, we're doing this. See how we're doing this. The cool part about teaching is you realize you're not always doing things perfect as well, right? So it would help me understand where I was missing. I would fill in those gaps. And those stores would go back and they would drive success in their business. And I developed lifelong relationships with those people. And one of the most important things I think that came out of that is it gave me confidence as an entrepreneur, right? Like I was doing a great job, but I could see that my steps were helping other people do a great job. So it gave me the confidence to buy my second location. Me and my wife purchased it, moved down to Florida and started the second location. The cool thing though, I was able to bring those steps. I had all the videos outlined. And so I really only had to spend about 4 months there. And then my system took control and I was able to go back home and then really start to plan out that third and fourth location. So we grew to 4 locations. We were able to scale up to $20 million in annual revenue out of those locations. And in 2021, we decided to exit the space because while I was working in that space, I was identifying lots of challenges and problems. One of those problems was around consumer financing and making sure that customers had the availability to get the money they needed to make purchases. And so I created FormPiper to be able to communicate with those customers to multiple lenders to ensure that they got the funds they needed to make their purchases. And it was really fun working there. I knew nothing about tech. I can't write a line of code to save my life. but I owned a marketing company and a finance company at the time. So luckily I had the people on the team where we could all sit down and brainstorm, how are we going to create something that's different, that's in the marketplace that we need? Because I couldn't find a solution that would really help me. It was always 50% of the way there. And I found that most financial companies that I compete against, they don't really understand how the retailer works. They understand how the financial world works. So they build a financial product, not a product for retailers. They don't understand the data that's important to us. And so what I did is I took everything that I knew about retail and packaged it into this process, built the product, and that grew through my entire vertical. Now we're in 5 different verticals. And so I was able to exit my retail life to come over here and focus and be a tech entrepreneur. And so I'm back on the grind. I'm learning my new steps for success because it's definitely a little different. And but I get to do what I love to do every day. If I bring on a new customer, they are me. They're a business owner that owns a retail business. They're working 7 days a week. They're worried about making payroll in 2 weeks. They're trying to figure out how to train their team and get their team to operate at a high level. And so I'm just working with all the people that I've worked with for the last 20 years. So it's
So,
definitely a great place to be.
so how different was it transitioning from owning pet stores to not owning this tech business?
And well, I've
There's
seen it's a little bit
less
of
dogs and cats running around.
so that's actually not as
More
fun, right?
bugs.
Like the best part about being in the pet space is it never felt like work, right? Because you're hanging out with pets all day, right? If you don't like
Yeah.
hanging out with pets, I mean, just wrap it up, right?
I'm
So
allergic
I
to dogs and cats, by the way.
okay, I'm actually allergic to birds, and so I would used
Oh,
to
wow.
clean the birds out, and I would almost die. Yeah, definitely, I can relate to you. Uh, the difference, though, retail, everybody that's in retail, especially if you're the owner, it's 7 days a week, like it's open to close. You're always putting out fires. And so it's just, you're really committed to the grind. And so switching over to the SaaS world, like people just kind of don't work on weekends, so I can have some weekends off from time to time. We work remote, and so I don't have to, go to that retail location. And so being able to work remote and work from anywhere in the world has been really cool. My wife and I will travel to places and live in places for 2 months at a time. I just set up my computer station, and we did Florence, Italy for 2 months. We did Portugal for 2 months, and I
Wow,
actually
that's
got more.
awesome.
Yeah, it was fantastic, and I actually got more work done than if I was at home because I was either 6 hours ahead or I'm 3 hours behind, and so I'm just on my own schedule. So I've truly enjoyed it. But the more we grow, you know, I'm right back to it. It's 7 days a week. My retailers are open 7 days a week. So my team understands that we're not a typical tech company. We're here to support people that are open 7 days a week. And so we're all back on that grind. So, but it's been a great
So,
transition.
so clearly, this is like the perfect scenario of how every startup should start. Like, you have deep expertise in an industry, you understand the problem better than anybody else, you can go solve the problem, you have industry connections that you can sell to, right? You are hitting all the things of if you're going to start a company, you should do all these things. And I recently wrote a blog post about check out the Startup Hustle newsletter. If you're not subscribed, go to startuphustle.xyz. You can find the newsletter and sign up. About why are you the right person to start this company, right? Like, what do you bring to the table that will make this company successful versus just any other random person who wanted to do this thing? And you're checking all the boxes, right? Which is awesome. Which is why you've been so successful at this as well. But my question for you is, so a lot of people that are similar to you, like, I don't know a lot about tech, but I'm going to start a tech company. Where did you start? You're like, did you find like a dev agency? Did you call somebody like Full Scale? Did you like find the random college student that knew how to write code? Like, where did you start with like, okay, how do I build software?
So I really got lucky. Oh, well, maybe not lucky because I just work hard. But so at the time of owning the retail businesses, I knew all I was doing was solving problems. So I started a finance company that could represent finance companies in my vertical because we
Okay.
needed more options. And so I started financing your way, and that was one of my first additional companies. And then what I learned was if the business was marketing at a very high level, right? They were driving more customers to their business, their financing revenue was higher because they were converting more sales. And so we were able to see this trend, like why is this store doing X revenue and this store is not, and we found out it was because of their marketing. So I started a marketing company, Social Network MD, with my
Okay.
partner, and we partnered with other marketing companies in our space, and we helped everybody drive massive success with their marketing, which then in return got more people to the business, which increased the financing revenue. So in my marketing company, we had developers,
Okay.
because we were developing websites and all of those types of
Yeah.
things. Now, the original developer, he's still with me on the team. He got that first prototype built for us, and it was fantastic. It was cool, new, shiny object. I was like, look at what we built. But we were learning, right? So luckily, I had my own business. We put it into my 4 locations. We learned everything about it, figured out what was wrong, what was right, went back to the drawing board. We brought in another developer who's actually still with me, and he's the CTO of FormPiper now. He's
Okay.
crushed the game for us, working with the original developer, Brad, and they've turned the product into just this unbelievable product over the last 3 years. And so they both work for me. Alex went out and started his own company for a period of time. And now they're all coming back onto the team, and we are just going to focus on FormPiper and, just bring this out to all the retailers across the country. So
Well, it
again,
sounds
I
like you've been really fortunate here because it seems like most of the entrepreneurs I talk to, it seems like they hired the wrong 3 developers first until they got to the right ones. That's
I'm
good.
sure
You've
it's
you've had good success.
a challenge, especially if you don't know anything about it. Like, how do you
Yeah.
interview a developer if
Yeah.
you don't know anything about developing, right? That's got to be a challenge.
It'd be like me interviewing somebody to run a pet store. What does the general manager of a pet store look like? I have no idea. I could not
Right.
interview that person. Well, so, before we started recording, you told me that you're like, we're kind of almost growing too fast. Like we have so much demand for our product right now. How does that feel?
It's two-toned, right? One, it's like fantastic. I know that all I have to do is show up and get the job done, and my company is going to continue to grow and be successful. But at the same time, I got to convert. I got to do a great job for everybody that's expecting me to get this job done, right? And I know I'm going to do it, but as you're doing it, right, there's always challenges and bumps in the road. Nothing ever develops as fast as you want it to develop, right? And so, so I would say it's fantastic. At the same time, you can feel that pit in your stomach that, hey, it's your time to do the job right, and let's get it done. So the good news is I have a fantastic team. Everybody's excited about where we're going. We're all running in the same direction. My strategic partners who have introduced me to all of this business, I've worked with them for, a decade. And so it's just like everybody around me, we all have the same focus. And so I think it's just going to be a fun journey, to grow the company. So it feels
Is it
fantastic.
creating is it creating problems for you though? So, 15 years ago, I had a company that was growing super fast and we couldn't install people fast enough. And people always say they want to have this problem. You don't want to have this problem because I
Yeah.
had 50 salespeople that now spent most of their day getting phone calls from the people they sold like 3 months ago, mad because, like, why aren't I installed yet? I want my money back. This is BS. Like, what is the deal? And then when the salespeople are trying to close someone, they're like, well, sir, that's awesome. You want to use our product, but can you wait like 4 months? Because we can't install you right now. Right? Like, it creates all sorts of problems that you don't really want to have. Do you have those
We're,
sort of problems right now?
I can just repeat what you just said. Luckily my technology can service everyone. And so it's just not where I'm going with the product. And so we've taken FormPiper and we have our new iteration that's going to be going live in the next couple of months. If I had my new product today, it'd be much easier for me to onboard those people and they would have a much better onboarding experience because we've taken all the manual work away,
Yeah.
right? So now our product has a little manual work to it. So there's more training involved, right?
Right.
There's nuances. We got to teach everybody on the team. If you onboard a retailer and they've got 30 employees, how do you get everybody to understand how to use something? You might have a heavy hitter that understands it and then they quit. And then you see that activity drop because that didn't get trained to the next person. So once we get our new product live, it just works. There's nothing that anybody has to do. And so we kind of got that same thing going. We have lots of retailers on. We have some waiting lists because based on qualifications, we know that they need the new product. And so they don't mind waiting. Now we haven't charged them or, it's not like they're waiting for something they paid for. We're just going to take them live at the time of. But yeah, no, I'm feeling those exact problems. I want to be 6 months down the road, obviously, right, with everything. But when you
There's
get six
nothing more
months down the
frustrating
road,
than this. There's nothing
it's
more
gonna,
frustrating than this though either, right? Like you wake up every day and you're like, I have all these people that want to give me money and I cannot serve them.
Yeah, yeah, it's definitely a tricky. I'm not mad at it though. I'm not. I would
Yeah.
much rather be in that situation than in a situation where I thought my product was good and nobody will buy it. I've met people like that. You know, they work on their product and it's just like they think it's going to be exactly what it needs to be, but they're not selling the product. You know, I'm like, well, dude, like you need to make sure that someone wants to buy it just because you like it. I mean, of course you like it.
Yeah.
You're building it. So I think it's always important. And I think that's again where I got lucky. I built it for me and my business. I knew what it did for me, and so it did it for everybody else because I could prove that it did it for me. There was no question on whether it was going to work or not.
Well, and this is how you also know you have true product market fit, right? Where you know you're building something that the market wants because now the market is pulling you. Like you're not working so hard to sell the product. Like the market is pulling you. The market is coming to you and saying, "We need this thing. We need these features. We need." Like the market is pulling you. And that was one of the things I was talking to somebody on the podcast about yesterday. And that's the way my company was, 15 years ago. Like we had so much demand we couldn't keep up with, and the market was telling us where to go, and the market was pulling us. Like we weren't trying to get somebody to buy our product. We were trying to keep up with the market. Like the market was pulling us.
I think the cool thing about that too is because every vertical is a little different, is what we've learned. When we went from pet to furniture, the product needed to be tweaked, right? And then we're seeing that in auto. It's just a little bit different. It's a little bit different sales process. So as we're getting pulled, we're also getting the advice of what they want.
Yeah.
And so I'm not guessing and trying to build something and then sell it. I'm showing them what I got. They love it. And they're like, can you get it to do this and this for our current? And then we build that. And so we're able to customize it for that vertical or for that business. And then I've got strategic partners and customers for life, because we're customizing it for their business.
Yeah. So how do you handle that now? You mentioned that you're in about 5 different verticals. So if somebody came to you today and said, I need your help in like whatever the new thing is, what is your thought process on like, okay, I'm gonna drop everything and go chase this vertical versus saying no?
It's funny. I think as business owners, we can talk a big game. Like I talk to my team, I'm like, no more opportunity, no more verticals. Okay. I want everyone to focus on what we have. And then a buddy of mine called me recently and another vertical and says, Brad, I need your tech. I got 200 businesses. I need to get it in. I need it to be customized. This is what I need. And then I had to backtrack to my team like, okay, listen, we're going to do this one more opportunity.
And I promised it would be done by next Sunday.
Well, it's funny you say that. He was like, could we be live on Monday? And
yeah,
most business, that's not possible. But my technology, it is possible. We were able to go in, create the pipes and make it happen. And we're going live. And now it's going to be on my legacy tech. It's not where I want them to be, but I'm going to build them a custom solution. And everybody understands that custom solution's coming down the pipe. I'm going to continue to try to stick to my guns and say, listen, we need to get these opportunities done. But look, if there's a business out there that needs something and I have it, we're going to figure out how to deliver it. I mean, it's just.
So sounds like you're in a great situation. Business is growing, a lot of demand. Has that got you thinking about raising capital or do anything to help kind of get to the next level to really expand and do all these things?
Yeah, it's funny you ask. I'm a bootstrapped company. I had a business partner for the first 10 years. FormPiper's been in existence for 5 years, but we worked on all the projects together. And so I've never raised money before. I've always just figured, hey, I could just keep growing, in the exact constraints that I'm in. But I'm seeing that now. I'm like, okay, if I stay bootstrapped, I can only hire this many people. I have all this opportunity. How am I going to onboard? How am I going to give the proper customer service to make sure that I don't churn one of these opportunities, right? So if you drop the ball on an opportunity, you're not getting it back. And so I've actually outlined several different possibilities for raising money. What would it look like if I did friends and family type of a situation? What would it look like if I went the VC route? I've documented all of those things and shared them with my team, my legal team, and I'm looking for advice on kind of what I should do there. Part of me wants to just stay bootstrapped so I don't ever have to answer to anybody. But, I have a responsibility to get these products to these customers. So it's definitely something we're looking at.
Yeah, venture debt's another great option to add to that list. Debt's a very good option too.
Okay.
Yep, add that one to the list. We should talk about this topic later, but there's a lot of options. And the good news is you're in control. You don't have to do any of these things, right? And so you can control your destiny and figure out on your terms what works out the best for you and the company and your employees and your customers, all that kind of stuff. which is super awesome. Vertical expansion is interesting. So at full scale, like we only do software development. So if you called me today and say, Matt, can you hire some call center people for me and whatever, I was like, and we don't do that. But at what point in time do we do it? At what point in time we say, okay, fine. Full Scale is known for hiring fantastic software developers in the Philippines. Sure, there's great people to do call center work and data entry and all these things. And it's tough. It's tough to figure out, okay, when do we stay in our lane and be, the best known for doing this thing versus doing the next vertical. But I think for what you're doing, it's a different scenario, right? Like going from software development to call center is kind of a big difference. You're like, hey, we still help you manage retail finance. It's just like different kinds of retail or different kinds of service businesses. So it's not that big of a stretch from one vertical to another, right?
I'd agree. What we tried to do out of the gate was one, we handled my vertical and it was like, all right, let's move to the next vertical. And then we learned that there was a lot of challenges in that vertical. So we tweaked and changed and we figured that out and got that one running down the hill. It's like, all right, well, what's the next vertical? And during that transition, what we learned was we're not about a certain vertical, right? So my product helps people with consumer financing. So any business that sells high ticket retail items or services and uses multiple lending options is my customer. And so we used to just sell it to everyone that was fitting like in that box, right? In the verticals. And so we were going to try to expand to new verticals. And what we realized was our true customer is somebody who has multiple locations. So really our ICP is 5 locations or more.
Yeah.
More enterprise level, 10, 15, 20 locations. Because when you're a retailer, you go through these learning curves, right? When you have one location, you got it. You're in there manhandling it. You can make sure everything's going good. You're working the business every day. You got your finger on the pulse. Go to 2 locations and you can bounce back and forth. You have a little bit of loss of excitement. You get to 4 locations, you got to have systems and processes.
So it's important that you figure out your ICP. Like that's really the important thing is knowing, okay, somebody who has more than 4 or 5 locations is the perfect target customer for us. And just like with the verticals, it's figuring, okay, these verticals, this company size, all that kind of stuff is where you really hone in. And that's what unlocks a lot of the growth is focusing on the right kind of people. I would love to talk more about your steps to success.
Okay. All right.
So what is the first step? How do we guarantee success with one step?
The first step is my favorite step. It is the step that I live by, and I call it your war board. And so a war board is basically your to-do list, right? It's like, what are you trying to accomplish? And I build out multiple types of boards. And so I've got my Power of 27 war board, which is my 27 life goals. And so I teach everybody that they need to have their life goals written down, right? And then we need to move towards those goals, right? And then the second war board is your work war board. It's like, what are you doing at the job? What are you trying to accomplish, right? And so if you take your war boards, your macro goals, and this could be something that you want to do next month, next year, 5 years, 10 years, right? It's big goals. You take your goals and then you look at it, and I work in 12-week sprints. The 12-week year is a book that I read probably 5 years ago. It was a game changer for me because it made me understand that I don't have to get everything done, immediately. I can put things into a bucket. I should get 80% of that stuff done and feel good about it. I don't have to be perfect, but I want to have lofty goals in those 12 weeks. How can I try to get a year's worth of work done in 12 weeks through focus and intention? And so I teach people to make their boards. What we're going to do is we're going to take those boards, we're going to look at those boards, and we're going to write down everything that we can do in the next 12 weeks to move closer to our goals. And then once we have our 12-week sprint goals, we create our action list. And our action list is going to be every single action that we need to do in order to accomplish our 12-week goals. And then you take that action list, you organize it, you put it into buckets based on certain things that you're doing, and then you drop them into a weekly goal and then your daily goal. So like every day I organize my list and I know the 3 or 4 or 10 actions that I need to do today in order to move closer to my macro goals. And as long as I'm doing the action list, I'm moving towards the goals that I've set because it's all been built off of that list. So if you don't have a war board and you don't have a list and you're not focused in a direction and your team doesn't know where they're going, then you're not going to go anywhere. You're just going to be running around in circles. So that's the number one step, in my opinion. If you want to be successful in business and successful in life, figure out where's your board? Where's your war board?
I have this struggle with my wife even. Like, for example, we're planning a trip to the Philippines here, and I'm like, babe, we have to figure out what hotel we're gonna stay at, and we got to get it booked. But she's focused on like buying a new stroller. I'm like, babe, if we don't have a hotel, the stroller doesn't matter. Like, what is the priority right now? Prioritization is always important in life because like, hey, we didn't get the Airbnb that you really wanted because you were focused and distracted on the stroller, right? Like, we can buy the stroller after you book the Airbnb. Priority is always so important in everything in life. All right, what is step number 2?
Step number 2 is treat every day like it's grand opening day. And like this is my favorite one, and this is just human nature, right? If you're a business owner and you've been working that business for 10 years, right? You've been coming into the same four walls. You just don't see things that are wrong. You've gotten used to it, right? But if you think about when you opened up that first day, how'd you feel? Right? Were you nervous? Right? Did you get the butterflies in your stomach? Did you have balloons everywhere? Did you have some kind of event going on? Did the team have name tags on? Were their shirts pressed? Right? Were you exuding to the world your culture on that day? And where are you doing now? So if you could look back at grand opening day and compare it to today, where are you at? Right? And what people have to understand is every day should be grand opening day, because more than 50% of the people that walk through your doors on any given day have never been there before. So why should they get a different experience today than you gave the first people that walked through your doors the first day? That doesn't make any sense, right? It's the same business. You have the same goals.
Yeah.
And so you got to just be able to step into your business and look at it and say, hold on a second. What do I need to do to get back to day one so I can exude the culture that I started this business with? And it's funny, when you treat every day like grand opening day, you start to have big Tuesdays, right? Like we would have balloons up everywhere, the music playing, right? The greetings on point. People would walk into my business on a Tuesday and just, we would greet them and they'd be like, what's going on? Are you guys doing something special? And we would just be like, well, we knew you were coming, And so why would Tuesday on the 13th of the month be any different than that first day? So I tell people, don't look at the month, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, because a lot of people, Saturdays are a big day. Well, if you treat Saturday like your big day, it's your big day. But if you don't treat Tuesday like it's going to be like a Saturday, it will never be like a Saturday.
Yeah.
So Tuesday is just day 4. Okay, we're going to treat each day like a number. We're going to come in and treat it the same. And then you can have a $30,000 Tuesday because you're treating it like it deserves to be a $30,000 day.
I love this. So. And as you describe this, I think of like some restaurant diner that opens up and on the first day, everybody's excited, everybody's happy, and you get all this great customer service. And then like a year later, you go into the diner and the waitress is like, whatever, there's somebody here. Yeah. What do you want?
Yeah.
Right? Like it's a totally different experience.
Nature, right? You lose that excitement, right? Yeah. And it's because look, it's a grind, right? Like that any business where you're servicing customers on a daily basis, you can get tired, right? Like, customers have an expectation and you got to bring that expectation. And so I think it's just being able to stay rejuvenated.
Yeah.
And you got to be excited to be in your own business. And I think if you treat it like it's a grand opening day, you're going to have that excitement every day. Right? If you let your business get stale and you don't front and face and you got trash over in the corner that you just gotten used to it being there, well, who wants to be there, right? So you kind of dictate that attitude by how you treat the day.
Yeah, I think that's fantastic reminder to everybody. All right, what's step 3?
Step 3 is my favorite because it's FormPiper. You got to be able to convert your customers, right? So it's all about having the proper finance department in your business. Right? So you want to treat every day like it's grand opening day. You want to have a great culture. You want to invite people to your culture. You want them to come down. You want to present to them. Those are a lot of the other steps. But if you're inviting people down and doing presentations and you can't convert them, then all of that other effort went down the drain, right? So step 3 is make sure that you can transact. Make sure you're ready to take your cash, your credit. You got every credit card. You got all the finance companies ready to go. You have a way to present those options to your customers so you can transact.
Yeah.
And that puts you in a position where now you're ready to start bringing people down to your business.
Okay. Even at full scale, it's like we've got to be able to send them our talent and their profiles and an MSA and a service contract. Like a lot of businesses, it's like you got to be ready to sell something and have, a smooth process to do it.
I agree. I agree.
All right, what's the next step?
I'll skip over the next one because it's build your perfect lender lineup. It fits right in with the FormPiper department. You need to have all the options. Once you have all of that done, you need to get your presentation nailed down. So that goes into culture, right? So when I look at my triangle of success, you've got culture, you've got marketing, and you've got sales. So we're going to get our sales machine ready. Once our sales machine's ready, we need to be able to present. So we already have a great culture because we're treating every day like it's grand opening day, right? The store is presented and it's ready to go. But when that customer walks through the door, what's the presentation? What's the value that you're bringing? If you're in high ticket retail or high ticket services, one, you have competition, right? Two, this is a very big purchasing decision for the customer, right? If they're spending $1,000, $5,000, $10,000 on something, they need to feel good about that purchase. So what we need to be able to do is we need to have a standard presentation that we go over every single time, no matter what, to every single customer that walks through the door so they understand the value that is built into our product so we can educate them so they can make an educated buying decision, right? If your customer is not educated, if they feel confused about the transaction in any way, they are not going to stroke that check for $5,000, right? So value build, have a great presentation. Don't prejudge your customers and think, oh, this person doesn't need to hear it, or they've been in here a bunch of times. Every time they come in, build value, go through your presentation.
Okay, what's next?
Next, we're going to have, I'll combine them. We got sales scorecards and training the team. So you got to have a way that you're tracking the success of your team members. So what are your important KPIs? So in retail, there's 3 important KPIs that I believe. It's the number of presentations that you do. It's the number of reservations that you book for people to come down to your business so you can give them the presentation. And it's the number of applications that you run in order to try to get that customer the money they need to purchase. So if you focus on those 3 KPIs and you track those on a scorecard, you can come in as the business owner and you can see who's struggling against the averages and you can teach them how to be successful. So you need to teach them. That's the next step. Have a training process. I used to try to train everybody myself, right? Like with just speaking to them. Come over, let me train you. Well, that doesn't work. If you're the business owner, fires are happening, the phone's ringing, the inventory just came in. You got to go sign the checks. So I created a learning center, made about 100 videos that taught my team about every single aspect. We had the top 5 videos that were the main KPIs that we trained on. And so if somebody was below the bar or below the average or expectation, they would watch those videos before going into work. And now I had a turnkey training system. This is what allowed me to go from 1 location to 4 because I was present in all of the locations, even though I wasn't there. You know, it's funny, like every time I go to the business or any of my friends' businesses, they'd be, oh, you're the guy on the videos. You know, so I'm sure it's like a lot like social media people today. They got all their videos online. They run into people and like they feel like you know them, right?
Yeah.
Because you got the videos. That's kind of how I feel sometimes going into businesses or my businesses because they know me. They know what I'm talking about. They know, what I want to teach them. But, sometimes I haven't met people.
We have we have some similar onboarding videos at full scale for our software developers about how to work with our customers and culture and communication skills, all these things. But I'm curious, so how often do you retrain everybody? If you've got somebody that's worked for you for 5 years, like how often do they keep going through this training?
So what we found is even your heavy hitter goes through a slump, right? And so if you're tracking the data on the KPIs on a daily basis, what we do is we set 3 levels. We have our expectation, right? The expectation is the average. It's what everybody's doing. We expect everybody to be able to do what we've always done, right? That's the baseline. And then our goal, we usually go up about 10%. And then our stretch goal could be at 25% on top of the baseline.
Okay.
And we move the baseline. So if we're doing 300 grand and we get to 400 grand, we're going to change that baseline to everything to match the new baseline. And we want to keep pushing up. So let's say you have one of your metrics is tracking presentations, and you know that the average person is going to be able to do 30 presentations. That's the expectation. We have our expectation. If somebody's below that, well, why are they below that? What's going on? They're going to watch the presentation video. So if you're below the expectation on my scorecards, you highlight in red. If you come in and you see your scorecard in red, you know you have to watch the video. It's not an option. You sit down, you watch the video. You go grab your manager. You say, hey, I got my video watched. I'd like to role play with you real quick. You role play back and forth. Tell me what you learned on the last watch. And then they get back out there and they apply. And so everyone's being trained every day based on where they are and or where they're below, the numbers. And it's funny. I mean, one of my videos was like an hour. It was like 45 minutes long. But it's a great video. If you do what I did in this video, you're going to crush it. And if you get below that threshold there, you have to watch that 45-minute video every day. I don't know if that was the best use of time, but I tell you what, they would come to me and be like, listen, man, I really don't need to watch the video today. I watched it the last 5 days of work. Like, well, let me see what you did the last 5 days. What happened? Why aren't you out? Right. And so they'd watch it again. And just the fact of not wanting to watch the video, right, was motivation enough to be like, I am going to crush this presentation this time because I need to get out of the red. So I don't have to watch this video.
I do not want to see Brad's face for 45 minutes today.
No, because it's just me standing there talking to you. So we didn't have high tech stuff back in the day. We weren't like doing all these cool cuts and overlaying, the text for you. Like this is just camera on a tripod, me talking to you. So,
all right, what's the next step?
Let's see. Organize your digital presence. So a lot of people, they don't really think about making sure that their directory listings are good, making sure that they're answering their reviews, making sure that when people come to the website, all the buttons work, right? That their address everywhere is perfect. So it's just making sure that your culture is actually in place at the digital level. And then once our culture is correct, what we're going to be able to do is we're going to be able to start marketing, right? So that's the next step. You're going to market. You got your AdWords, social media, you got your blogs, you got your newsletters, everything you're going to do to market, right? Do a great job marketing. And then ultimately at the end of the day, you need your reservation program in place. This is a huge opportunity for every single business that exists. If somebody calls you about your business, if somebody fills out a form about your business, they have intent. And it's your job to make that experience different than any other experience. And so I'm not going to just tell you where my business is. I'm going to set a time and a day for you to come down because I want to do my presentation with you, right? So I have a plan for you when you arrive, but when are you going to arrive, right? So how's Tuesday at 2 p.m. or 4 p.m. for you? I'd love to be able to go over our values as a company when you get here, right? So now you're booking reservations. When you start booking reservations for your business, everything changes. Because if you think about being a business owner, we all want to transact. We all want to grow our revenues. And so if you're a retail business, there's only like a couple ways to do that. But at the ultimate, like somebody's got to walk through your doors. If they don't walk through the door, you can't close them. So you're just waiting for somebody to come in through the door. And you don't know if anybody's coming. And so all of a sudden, if you have a reservation program and then you come in on a Tuesday, which is day 7, right? That can be a huge day for you if you look at it properly. You might have, 5, 6, 7 reservations. Well, if you got 7 reservations and 4 of them show up and you convert 3 of them on a Tuesday, you just had a fantastic Tuesday, right? And it's a much easier time to give somebody a great experience on Tuesday than it is Saturday because Saturday people are walking through your door. They're coming on Saturday. So can you book reservations during the week? Can you build your week time up when you have a more time to spend with those customers? And so, we really got into it. We would track our reservation count, our show percentage, our close percentage on reservations. And then more importantly, when you have a reservation program and you market, when you do a new marketing campaign, you can track to see if your reservations go up. If your reservations don't go up, your marketing campaign didn't work. So now you can tweak that marketing campaign because it's a direct reflection of exactly what's going on. And so you can give that data to your marketing company and say, hey, look, we didn't see any impact on reservations being booked. How do we tweak it? How do we change it? Could we just do book a reservation campaign? Call us today and book your reservation. And then all of a sudden your reservations are increasing. So reservations was a game changer. You can even do outbound phone calls. That was a big game changer for us. If people engage in your content or that you have this subset of customers, they need to come back in at some point for something, you can simply just reach out. Be like, hey, Matt, I know it's been a little while since we've had you down to the business. It was such a great experience last time. Love to invite you back down and go back over our presentation, right? Obviously, that's customized to the business. But now you're doing outbound phone calls to book reservations for people to come into your business, and you're changing the entire ecosystem and culture of your business when you do that.
Yeah, and all of these things relate to software companies too, like setting appointments, doing demos,
Hmm.
outbound. It all relates very similarly and the same. All right, what's the
I
next
would agree.
step?
It was nice to see that transition. I didn't have to learn that in tech. I was like, oh, it's the same thing. We're booking appointments. We're doing
Yeah.
demos. So it's just different terminology. Last step is weekly meetings, right? So you got your KPIs, you got your training, you got your reservations, you got everything rocking, but your team needs to communicate. And so every single Sunday we would have our manager meeting. We'd all get together. We talk about our wins and losses for the last week. And then we would have our Monday meetings with our team. They would come on and then they would have to give us an update on what they did last week. Where did they win? Where did they lose? What's their plan for this week? And then on Friday, we would have another weekly meeting to see where they were at for the week and what they needed to do in the weekend in order to win, right? And when you have those touch points and your team knows that you're holding them accountable to the scorecard and to the KPIs, you can look at the scorecard, know where they're low, know where they're high. You can praise the wins and you can teach the losses. You're constantly moving your team in a right direction. And I see so many businesses out there in business, they just don't meet. They're like, well, Brad, why would I meet? I'm on the floor with them all the time, right? I'm out here hanging out. Like, well, that's because you only have one location and you're in there muscling it, right? But when you get to 4 locations, 5 locations, you can't do that, right? There's just no way to make sure everybody's doing what they're supposed to be doing. So you got to have a cadence where you can check in with your team. Your team needs to know that you're paying attention to the numbers and they need to know that you're there to help them fix the numbers, right? And when you bring your team together, you're just getting great ideas. You're able to talk about, the challenges of the week. Somebody's already addressed that challenge. They can help the next person be successful and correct that challenge. So having that weekly cadence to make sure that the steps are constantly happening is the final cherry on top to make sure that you're going to be successful.
Well, you got to have a different conversation, right? It's like I hang out with my wife, for hours every day. That doesn't mean we stop and have a conversation about how is our marriage going? How can we improve our marriage? Right? Like it's a different conversation.
Right.
And it's the same thing in business. Like you have to stop and like step back and like, okay, how are we doing holistically and figure out how do we improve things? It's a different conversation.
I agree, 100%. And a lot of people aren't having those conversations. If you're not having them, it's not grand opening day in your
Yeah.
business. I'll tell you for sure.
So that was that was probably one of my favorite steps of your list here is the grand opening day. I love that tip because after so long we just take everything and we just assume all these things and don't put the focus on it. I really like that one.
I actually think if you watch that one, I think at the beginning of the video, I literally say that this is my favorite step.
Yeah.
Because it's culture. If you're not dialed into your culture, why do you even have the business? Right?
So
If you're not trying to give that customer that experience, like just wrap it up, let's have a good culture.
So all of these steps, and you have videos for all these steps, is on your website at drivesuccess.today. And we'll make sure we put a link in the show notes for that. I think this is really good material in your steps here. Well, thanks so much for being on the podcast today. I love your story. I always love the story of entrepreneurs who, do one thing, they have all this expertise in industry, and then they build, they pivot and do something else. And in this case, it's a software product. And fantastic story. It's how most great businesses are built is from entrepreneurs who do exactly what you have done. So big congrats to you and your success.
Well, I appreciate it too. I love being on the show. I loved our pre-chat before the show, so I'm going to step up my game on some of your teaching. So keep an eye out for my first ever piece of content posted on social media.
All right. Well, I'm going to hold you to that. Again, this was Brad Parker, founder and CEO of FormPiper. You can check them out at formpiper.com. Thank you so much for doing this today, Brad.
I appreciate it.
Thank you.